Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to week 2 of college football picks. Murray is here to make picks with us. Say hi, Murray.
Hi.
And yeah, so he's going to be making picks as well as laughing at teams from last week that lost. But first of all, how did we do last week? 17-6 on my picks. That puts me at 21-7 overall, 75% win percentage. We're going to look to keep that going this week. Now, who is our clown of the week? Well, last week the week before was Scott Frost. This week, Murray, who's your clown of the week?
Graham Mertz.
Why Graham Mertz?
I've never seen a quarterback sell a game so hard in the last quarter of a game than he did.
Yeah, that Wisconsin Penn State game was just horribly ugly. But you know what? Graham Mertz threw 2 picks. My clown of the week is a team, the Washington Huskies. They become the first team since 2016 and only the 5th team ever to be a ranked team and lose to an FCS team. They toted a giant L, losing 13-7 to the Montana Grizzlies. A disappointing showing. Washington, we expect better of you. We're going to hold you to a higher standard than that. But anyway, okay. So let's get into the picks. 2 featured games. There were 3 last week. I went 2-1 on the featured games. Louisiana Lafayette will be down. All right, the first game we have to pick is Kansas and Coastal Carolina. A great rivalry in college football. This will be the 3rd straight year that they play. I think Coastal Carolina wins for a 3rd straight year. Kansas rushed the field after beating an FCS team. Like they beat South Dakota. Miracle, come from behind victory over South Dakota. And they rushed the field. So, yes, congratulations on your win, Kansas. But I think Coastal Carolina will beat you. I mean, you can't beat them. So I think they'll win. Murray, who do you got?
Coastal.
All right, next is a 50-50 game. The line is even for this game. South Carolina and Eastern Carolina. Now, South Carolina, what did they start? A grad transfer at quarterback?
Yeah.
Zeb Nolan, and everyone was laughing at him. And he actually played very well, but it was Eastern Illinois, so take that with a grain of salt.
Thought they were QBU to you.
Listen, they are QBU. They don't have a good QB this year, though. They don't have a Jimmy Garoppolo this year, or a Sean Payton, or whatever. I'll take South Carolina over East Carolina. This is a coin flip for me. I'll take the Power 5 team.
Yeah, give it a Gamecocks.
All right, Pitt and Tennessee. Tennessee, Josh Heupel, first game looked good. Won 38-6 against Bowling Green. Now, it is Bowling Green, so, again, be cautious on your overreactions. But the ACC looked horrible. I'm going to take Tennessee at home over Pitt. I think they looked good enough to earn themselves another win.
I'm going to take Pickett and the Panthers. Go Pitt.
Okay, Murray's got Pitt. Youngstown State and Michigan State. Now, Michigan State impressed me. Kenneth Walker, freshman running back, had 4 touchdowns. Michigan State won 38-28 over Northwestern. They looked very good. A lot better than I thought they would. They should have no problems with Youngstown State. The Penguins. I think they're the Penguins.
Yeah, I'll go Michigan State.
All right, next, Toledo. And now Notre Dame, they disappointed me against Florida State. They should have won that game by a lot more. Florida State turned the ball over 3 times. That Jordan Travis, that guy's horrible. He turned the ball over. That running back, though, that they had, what was his name? Joshua Corbin. Joshua Corbin for Florida State. That running back was amazing. And then they brought in that Mackenzie Milton. Glad to see him get back after that horrific injury he had. So good to see Mackenzie Milton back, but Notre Dame struggled with an inferior Florida State team. They should have no problems with Toledo, but I think that's fine.
I'll go Notre Dame.
All right, now before we get into the rest of the games, I forgot about the QBS top 10. Now, 2 of the teams in my top 10 lost, Indiana and North Carolina. They were at number 9 and 10. So our new 9 and 10 teams are Clemson. No, not Clemson. Our new 9 and 10 teams are Notre Dame and Oregon. Now, other teams that were in the running, USC, Oregon, Iowa. No, USC, Florida, Iowa was in the running. Penn State was in the running. Texas was in the running. Coastal Carolina was in the running, but I thought these two teams were a little bit better. I want to see a little bit more out of both these teams, or we're going to struggle with Fresno State. I want to see them do better. Um, Georgia remains my number one team. They were my number one team to open up the season. Since they won, they will stay there. Alabama was at 3, and since Clemson ahead of them lost, they're going to be at 2. Alabama looks nigh unstoppable. My goodness, they beat the absolute bejesus out of Miami. Miami was completely outclassed in that game. Alabama put a whooping on them. Now, 3 through 7, I dropped Clemson to 8 because they lost. A lot of people had them a lot higher. They're going to have to earn their way back up for me. But 3 through 7 are all different. I had Oklahoma and Iowa State. I had Oklahoma at 4 and Iowa State at – I had Oklahoma at 5, Iowa State at 4. They both they disappointed me a lot. They both disappointed me a lot. Iowa State only beat an FCS team in Northern Iowa by 6. And Oklahoma had their fair share of problems with Tulane only winning by 5, gave up 35 points. Whereas Texas A&M, Cincinnati, and Ohio State all looked very good. Ohio State had a little bit of problems with Minnesota, but they were able to handle themselves in the second half. Texas A&M all over Kent State, and Cincinnati all over Miami of Ohio. Both of those three did a lot better against inferior opponents than Oklahoma and Iowa State did. So Ohio State's at 3, A&M's at 4, Cincinnati's at 5. But now let's get into the rest of the games. Murray, do you have any complaints with the top 10?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Florida and South Florida is our next matchup. I'm going to take Florida. Emory Jones is a certified bum. He's hot doo-doo confirmed. But Anthony Richardson is a stud. They put him in at the end of the game. He was dazzling the crowd with his plays. Anthony Richardson should be starting, but Dan Mullen's a QB illiterate. He won't be put. Remember when Kyle Trask was sitting behind that garbage can, Felipe Franks? It's kind of like that, but I'll take Florida over South Florida. Murray?
Yeah, we'll get another dub.
Murray's a Florida fan.
Go Gators.
I'll take Virginia Tech easy over Middle Tennessee State. Shout out Virginia Tech. They had a good win against North Carolina. Took care of them at home. Good job by the Hokies, but I'll take them against Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, I'll go Hokies again.
Wisconsin over Eastern Michigan. That's pretty easy right there. Taking Wisconsin. Despite their loss, they should be fine against Eastern Michigan. Rutgers and Syracuse, pretty much the only two good teams in the New England area, because UConn's hot due to confirm. Man, did y'all lose to Holy Cross? Yikes. It's like Rutgers, though. Rutgers beat the absolute bejesus out of Temple. So, I'm going to take Rutgers.
Rutgers.
Georgia and UAB. Georgia looked great. Their defense was one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen. They should have no problems with UAB. They're getting a lot of players back, too. They had like Dominique Blaylock, Eric Gilbert. George Pickens will be back in November. I mean, they had a lot of players hurt that game, and they still won. So I think Georgia's by far and away my national championship favorite. There's no problems with UAB.
Especially I don't think UAB, I can't. But Georgia's going to find a way to Mickey Mouse this win.
They're going to Mickey. Wow.
This is one of the most overrated teams I've ever watched in my life.
Really?
That's almost every year, though.
Georgia's winning national. All right, Texas A&M and Colorado. Murray has an interesting pick here. I'm going to take Texas A&M. They look great against Kent State. Their defense was amazing. They had no problems whatsoever. I think A&M is going to give Bama a run for their money in the West. I think, and when A&M plays Bama, it's at A&M. So I'll take A&M over Colorado. They should get this win.
I got the Buffs. Big upset.
Murray likes Colorado. He's taking the upset. It is at Colorado, so I don't know if that'll give A&M some problems, but I think A&M should be able to pull this one out. All right, Murray State and Cincinnati. Cincinnati big. That man Desmond Ridder is amazing. Cincinnati looked unstoppable against Miami of Ohio. I mean, they're going to be rolling through opponents. Notre Dame and Indiana are going to have another thing coming for them. Cincinnati looks amazing right now.
I'll go Cincinnati.
Penn State and Ball State. I know Ball State had a great season last year, but Penn State should be able to get this win.
Yeah, Penn State.
TCU and Cal. This is a coin flip for me. Cal lost to Nevada. I know Carson Strong is a good player, but I'll take TCU.
Give me the Horned Frogs.
Alabama and Mercer. Now Mercer's kicker, a lot of people like him because he intentionally. Now I don't think he did this intentionally, but he intentionally missed a field goal to keep the score at 69-0 against whoever they were playing. I don't remember. I don't think he did that on purpose, but everyone was like messaging him how much they loved it, so he like took credit for it. Like, there's no way he missed that on purpose, but that was great. But Mercer gets to face the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. It's going to be ugly. Bama wins 77-0.
I'll go Bama.
Really? You're going to take Alabama?
Yeah, I'll go Bama.
Mercer wins that game. It'd be the greatest upset in college sports history. Says maybe UMBC. Oklahoma, Western Carolina, same thing. I'll take Oklahoma. Big. App State and Miami. I'm going to take Miami. App State doesn't really have that many good players left. That Zach Thomas quarterback, he's gone, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's gone. Miami, they looked bad against Alabama. I don't know a lot of teams look bad against Alabama, but, like, they were bad. They didn't score a touchdown until, like, 5 minutes left. Their offensive line just wasn't blocking, but I think De'Aaron King will make enough plays against App State to win close.
Another upset. Give me the Mountaineers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Murray's taking App State. He hates Miami. That's why.
Miami's garbage.
Texas and
is actually looking good.
Say that again.
I said App State actually looks good.
They beat East Carolina. So.
They look good doing it too.
All right, I'm gonna take Texas over Arkansas. Texas is back, folks.
Texas is done.
No, I might end up going to Texas, so I kind of have to root for them. I think they should be able to beat Arkansas on the road. This is an interesting matchup. These teams used to play all the time when they were in the same conference, but they don't play each other much anymore. So I'll take Texas.
I'll go Texas.
UNC and Georgia State. Don't take UNC.
North Carolina.
All right, and then Washington and Michigan. Washington obviously toted a giant L against Montana. Michigan, they obviously beat the bejesus out of Western Michigan. I'm going to take Michigan 7-6. I think this game's going to be ugly and just defensive because Washington, their defense played fine against Montana. Only gave them 13 points, but their offense only scored 7. So I think it's going to be low scoring, and Michigan wins at home in the big house.
Yeah, we'll go Michigan.
Utah and BYU. Utah's ranked. They got a good defense. They've had a good defense. I remember they had like 7 players drafted when they had like Jalen Johnson or whatever. Utah, I think, is a lot better than BYU. BYU lost a bunch of people from last year. Not only Zach Wilson, but that Dax Milne is gone too. And they had an offensive lineman get drafted too, I think. So I'm gonna take Utah. Holy war though, big rivalry.
Give me the Cougars.
All right.
Every year.
Murray likes BYU. Murray loves BYU for no reason whatsoever.
BYU is insane.
He just loves BYU in everything. He loves BYU. All right, Stanford and USC. Stanford toted a giant L at the hands of Kansas State. I'm going to take USC.
I'll go USC.
Yeah, it's at USC. USC looked good. Won easily over San Jose State. They definitely looked very good. All right, now, featured games. Oregon at Ohio State. Now, Oregon with that. So, their quarterback, Anthony Brown. I don't know what to think of him. He's shown flashes where he's looked pretty good. Then there's sometimes where you look at him and you just go, what are you doing? I don't really know what to think about Anthony Brown. Ohio State, they looked pretty disappointing against Minnesota in the first half, but they lit it up offensively in the second half. Their defense created some turnovers, and they got themselves a much-needed win. I said Minnesota would scare them on the road, and they did. Minnesota, everyone's like, no, Ohio State could have come in and whoop them by 40 points. I'm like, there's just no way. Minnesota is going to make this interesting, and that's exactly what they did, but Ohio State won. Game went pretty much exactly like I said. C.J. Stroud was awful the first half. In the second half, he lit the world on fire. I was impressed with C.J. Stroud near the end of that game. It's at Columbus. I think Oregon's just a little bit outclassed. We don't know if Kevon Thibodeau is going to play. I don't think it matters if he does play or not. Ohio State eventually runs away with the points. I'm going to say they win 41-31.
Give me the Buckeyes big.
Buckeyes big.
Oregon is so overrated.
Oh, yeah, Murray hates the Pac-12, too.
Yeah.
If BYU was in the Pac-12, he'd pick BYU.
The Mickey Mouse Conference.
If BYU was in the Pac-12, he'd pick BYU to win the Pac-12 every year.
I would.
All right, and lastly, the Cyhawk rivalry between Iowa State and Iowa. Now, both these teams fared very differently. Iowa went out and beat the absolute bejesus out of Indiana. Michael Penix looked horrible. He threw 3 interceptions. Granted, one of them was not his fault. One of them hit right off his receiver's hands. But Indiana looked horrible. I don't even know if they're going to win a game the rest of the year. My God, they looked bad. Now, is that because Indiana's bad or because Iowa's good? I'm going to go with a little bit of both. But Iowa was able to get that win. Now, Iowa State, they did not. They rode the struggle bus all the way to a 6-point win over in-state rival Northern Iowa. Now, here's the thing about Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa will get up for that game. When they play Iowa or Iowa State, Northern Iowa gets up for that game. They know how important that game is. They want to beat them so bad, and they will always hang with them close. 2 years ago, they took a ranked Iowa State to triple overtime. And Iowa State strikes me as this team that might start slow throughout the season. They started off slow last year. They got murdered by Louisiana Lafayette. So, fine, whatever. They look bad. But they still got the win. I think Iowa State definitely has more talent on their team, but Iowa is very well coached by Kirk Ferentz. This is a coin flip for me. I know Iowa State has home field advantage, but Iowa will probably pull quite a few fans to this game. There'll probably be quite a few. It is in Ames, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it is in Ames. My pick in a very close competitive game coming down to the wire is Iowa State. I think they pull it out in the end. The home team, more talent. I think they're going to end up getting it done.
I'm actually going with Kirk Ferentz in Iowa.
You're taking the Hawkeyes?
I'm thinking the Hawkeyes. They look great on defense. Riley Moss is a stud.
Yeah. Well, Iowa State's defense played fine. I think they only got 10 points. So, like, a lot of these games that struggled, like Oklahoma, their offense looked great. Not at the start of the game. They looked bad, but they looked great. Their defense was horrible. Like Washington, their defense looked great. They only got 13 points. Their offense is horrible. So Iowa State's defense doesn't really scare me. It's just, will their offense be able to produce? I think if they can just run the ball well, they should be all right. Indiana just played the worst football game I've ever seen. That was horrible. But I think Iowa State could pull it out. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Drop your picks in the comments below. I'm interested to see who you guys have winning. And yeah, I'll see you around. See you tomorrow for NFL picks. Nice. NFL picks tomorrow. I'll see you guys.